Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the TCGM show. I'm Neal Gengard from the Tower Climbing Grease Monkeys, and this is our 6th episode that's recorded live for a podcast. Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about how TCGM got started, what the story is. I've been getting a lot of questions, and we're just going to talk shop. And we're going to get into exactly what it is that we're trying to do here. We're going to open it up for discussion. We're going to have callers call in, people interacting, and it's going to be a good time. So welcome to the show. I'm going to take a minute here to share this thing around. Please do the same. We're going to have a good deal here. And today we're going to give away a t-shirt to somebody who participates with us. So if you want to participate, you can call in to a number here. Then I'm going to give you the number. I'm going to put it up here on the screen, but the phone number is 435-709-8246. So I'm going to put this up here. Call in to 435-709-8246. So here we go. I'm going to show this here on the bottom screen, and we're going to get going. So you guys are welcome to call into that number. I'm going to open up Google Hangouts. That's how I make this work. So shout out to Google for making that all happen. They make the power of the internet so helpful. And I'm so gracious for it. So there's some settings in here that I got to change and let people know I'm around. And now I'm open for business. So one of the things that we recently had happen lately on the Tower Climbing Grease Monkeys group, which is how this thing all started, and I'll get into that, was we had a nice little discussion about DT, that's what I call him, DT, the orange-faced, yellow-haired man. And honestly, it was a really shitty conversation, one that I didn't really approve of or like. I don't even like talking about politics on our group because it just like tears it apart. You know, everybody's like, you're a dick and you're an asshole and you're an idiot and just saying stupid stuff and completely losing their humanity. And the reality is that's the type of world we live in, but I don't like seeing it. Frankly, I really dislike seeing it. If you noticed, I posted something today on the group, and I'll show it to you here briefly. It didn't get nearly the kind of traffic as the DT post, and I didn't expect it to. Quite honestly, anything that's positive usually just gets overlooked. You can tell I'm a little bit heated about this whole thing, and I'm not heated at the person that posted it by any means. That's not the idea here. The thing that I dislike the most is when people in our own industry tear each other apart and decide to disagree so much that they lose who they are, and they just like go down to the deepest of nothingness and just say mean things, right? So this post is something that I decided to put up, and it's something I found on YouTube that I found really interesting. If you get a chance, check it out. If you don't know how to get there, simply go here to search the group and type in self-discipline, and you'll be able to pull this up. Really neat perspective on how to win an argument in a very respectful way, as well as just like hold yourself as accountable as a man. Personally, in my life, I've always, kind of struggled with, bouts of anger. I'm just like, how do we fix this? I'm like a wrench thrower. Be completely honest. I'm that guy. The guys that I work with for years, they'll tell you I'm the guy who will chuck a wrench. I'm the guy who, not literally like at people or anything, but like I just have that temper in me, right? And I think if we're all being honest, we all have that. But this video and this YouTube video, it gave me some perspective, and I felt like it was a good thing to add to the group and to give back to the community. And that's what I wanted to talk about today is what is the point of this community and what is the point of TCGM? How is it working? What are we trying to do? How did it start? Without a vision and without a clear perspective as to what it is that we're trying to do here, there's very little that we can accomplish. And so I just wanted to take the time and explain this to all those people who are new to this, all those people who might not have heard this, and explain to you guys what it is that I'm trying to do here, where I came from, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then open it up for calls. Literally just open it up for calls. You guys can call in that number at any time and just discuss with me what's going on. And if you have any questions, that's it, man. And it's that simple. So, and if I don't get any calls, then no worries. I'm not even sweating it. So we're going to take you back. Okay. We're going to take you back in time here, and we're going to talk about what it is that I wanted to do in the renewable energy field. So when I was, let's go back to where I grew up. So start from the beginning, man. My family's from the Midwest. They grew up in, my dad grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, grew up in quite an impoverished area. I think he was like the only white kid in the neighborhood, South St. Louis. Really humble beginnings with my grandpa and my grandma. He comes from a bit of a split home, and my grandpa is like this, gangster heroin addict that is just like running the streets and living his life, but yet somehow finds his way back to living a good life, moves to California, gets clean, creates a whole new life. And my mom, she grows up in this, nice suburb of Chicago, and somehow my mom and my dad meet, and they make it work, and they come together, and it's a beautiful thing, man. My dad's a barber, my mom is wanting to be a hairdresser. They meet, and then they go to this like cosmetology school, and then they hit it off, and then, next thing you know, my dad's packing up his Chevelle, and he's pulling out this huge boat that he got from I don't know who, packs it up with all the stuff they ever had, and comes out to California to be with my grandpa and to start a new life here in California. And that's when they have me, So they settle down in this place called Sunnymead, which then turns into a place called Moreno Valley, which is now known as slang terms as Murder Valley, because it's just so awesome and people are just so good to each other. And, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. So I grow up in this like urban area. Honestly, have great friends, great family, live in a decent neighborhood. It starts to go really bad real fast. People from Los Angeles County are getting kicked out because they have 2 strikes and they need to move into a new county. And sure enough, they move into our county, Riverside County. And that is where the fun begins. My parents go through some financial troubles. They lose their house, and we end up having to move to another neighborhood, which was a great neighborhood, but it was surrounded by gangs and drugs, the Bloods, the Crips, the 13th Street Gangsters, you name it, man. All of that stuff. That's where I grew up in Moreno Valley, right? Honestly, had a great childhood, never went without anything. Never, my parents just like, even if they were broke, somehow they found a way to put Christmas presents under the tree, give me birthday presents, had a great childhood, had great friends, still have childhood friends to this day that actually help me on TCGM, right? Shout out to Steven Reynolds. That's one of my best friends. He's helped me through thick and thin. When I think I want to give up, that I'm not adding value to Text Lives how I want to, I talk to him and he says, look, Neal, you're doing a ton, man, and you're rocking it. Don't let that stuff get you down. Don't let the self-doubt, the ego get in your head. Just keep moving forward, right? And that's what friends are for. And I have those. So anyway, grow up Southern California. I get to the point where I'm in high school. I'm quite like a kind of a geeky kind of kid, honestly, but I love to like skateboard, ride my bike. I'm really outdoorsy, as much as I can be in SoCal, right? And I love to like ride my four-wheeler. I've got all these great pictures and stuff of my grandpa, taking us to Glamis and the dunes, and he built dune buggies. It was great. Get to about high school, and that's when things start to get really interesting, right? Because you're like, oh man, I'm going to be cool. I'm going to do my thing. I get this cool like 1995. I remember I saved up all my money. I was the kid that saved up all his money from all of the grandparents that ever gave you anything. I saved every little bit of it. I remember having a bank account at Provident Bank on Heacock in Moreno Valley. And I saved every dime, man. And by the time I was 16 years old, I had $3,000. My dad was super proud of me. He said, look, Neal, I'll match your $3,000 and we'll get you this really awesome 1995 Firebird. I remember this thing was like mint condition. It was black. It had T-tops, man. It wasn't the big engine, but it still was cool and it sounded mean, man. And I loved it. Buy this car. It didn't take me too long to like crash it. I start, doing things. We lived on the south side of town, and it was real easy for me to like get my hands on things that these like kind of like more richer kids wanted, stuff that they shouldn't be wanting. And I was like the guy that could like make things happen, right? Because I was like the kid on the other side of the freeway or whatever. I start playing that role or whatever, and I think it's kind of a fun thing. And I get my first taste of real business, but I also am working at the same time. I'm flipping pizzas. I love to make pizza. I work at, some pizza parlors or whatnot. Life's okay. I ended up getting into some trouble. At about 18 years old, I remember getting arrested, and it was under the influence of a controlled substance. Complete vulnerability here. I'm telling you my story. Judge me all you want. I could care less, but I'm putting it out there. I'm going to tell you this story, and I want you to know all of it. Okay. I want you to know who I am. I want you to know what I came from and where I'm going. All right. So I'm messing up a little bit. I'm completely disappointing my parents. I'm doing things that I see like rappers doing on, on TV and stuff. At the time, it might seem silly to you, but back in the day, man, I mean, there was this rap group that was called the Cash Money Millionaires, right? And they were like, every time I come around your corner, bling bling. They were just like singing the stupidest songs about like money and drugs and women. And man, I ate it up. I just wanted to be that, right? I wanted to be that hustler and be out there and get that. And so I followed that for a while until I saw the disappointment on my mom's face. And that was a game changer for me. So I decided to clean up my act. I decided to get back to school. Honestly, I excelled in school until I stopped trying. I got back to school. I went to community college. I went to Riverside Community College. Then we moved out of Moreno Valley. We moved to a place called Beaumont, which is a lot closer to the wind turbines that you would see in Palm Springs. I move out there and I start anew. I kind of ditch friends that I didn't, really want to ditch because they were good people, but they were just surrounding me with bad stuff. I ditch them. I say, all right, I'm going to start something new. And I go to a place called Crafton Hills Community College, and I start studying, just random things. But before that, I leave RCC, and right before I leave RCC, the lady who is a guidance counselor says, you're like taking so many general education courses right now. You need to like pick a major. And so at this point I knew that, I'm like, man, I'm kind of needing to pick something. And sure enough, dude, I sit down, And she's this big lady, and she's got big fingernails, right? And she can, you know, like she's like ticking them on the desk as if I'm like, taking up her precious time. And she's like, "Are you gonna pick something?" And so I close my eyes and I put my finger down on this piece of paper, and it says business administration. It was that close to picking botany or some other thing, right? Sure enough, I point it out and I show it to her, and she says, "I'm going to need you to take this a little bit more seriously," and then clicks her nails on the on the table. And I'm like, "Oh crap, like she's not going to buy it. I need to like tell her why I need to be a business administration major." And so I go into this big long spiel about how I'm this hustler and what I've been doing and how I got where I'm at and how I know I'm a businessman and I know that I can make this work. And she was honestly taken back. She looked at me and was like, "All right, you sold me. Cool. That's your major." And so that's how I picked my major in school. So I guess I left it a little bit up to fate, right? But I can't believe that. And I don't know. My parents are going to kill me if they listen to this. They're going to be like, "That's really how you picked your major? Oh my goodness." So I picked my major. I go to Crafton Hills Community College. I excel there. I do well. I'm graduating with a degree, associates in arts or whatever it is, AA and business. I'm starting to do better. Things are looking up. I'm starting to work. I'm like a waiter at a restaurant, and I'm making good money. I'm paying my way through school. My parents are helping me out all they can, and they're telling me, "We're giving you this loan, but you got to pay us back." And I'm like, "All right, cool. This is allowing me to have some level of accountability." And sure enough, man, I get to a point where I'm applying for colleges. So I'm applying for colleges. I apply to UCLA, all these like schools locally, San Diego, all this stuff. I get accepted to quite a few of them, right? UC Irvine, UCLA. But I choose to go to UC Riverside because my parents are like, "We really want you to stay home. You can save some money." My dad's traveling at the time, and he's building he's like a general contractor, and he's building stores within malls like GNC and Lids and all of these things, right? That's what he's doing. He's living his life, doing well, but he's on the road a lot. He's like, "I want you to be home with mom, contribute to the house." I'm like, "Cool, sounds good." And meanwhile, I'm like, well, I don't really have too many choices because they're footing the bill right now, and telling me, "Hey, we'll foot you the bill now. You got to pay us back." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So I ended up going to UC Riverside, man. And about 3 years in, I thinking I'm going to join the Air Force, and I'm going to do exactly the opposite of what my dad has done, what my grandpa has done, about his dad has done, and I'm going to join the Air Force, and I'm going to be something totally different, right? I'm going to change this up. Well, I go through school, and there's some time that passes, and it just doesn't sit well with me. I ask myself, can you drop the bomb? Could you, destroy a village if they asked you? Could you do these things, because I wanted to fly planes. I had tested out. I was good to go. They're like, "Yeah, man, you can go to OTC or officer training school, and you'd be good to go, and you'll be ready to fly planes as long as you're healthy and things stay on the right track." And so thinking that's my thing, but I asked myself, can I drop the bomb, and can I do it? And I'm like, I just don't have it in me. I really, really don't have it in me. So I'm like, how else do I give back to the world? And at this time, I'm in like 22, right? I'm 22 years old. You met 22-year-olds, right? They think they have it all figured out. Especially if they have some education under their belt, right? They're thinking, "Man, I got this all figured out. I'm a badass, and I know how the world works." And at the time, my vision of the world was quite influenced by all of the quote unquote conspiracy theories in the world. And to some extent, at this point in time in my life, it still is, right? I still believe a lot of these weird things about, like government control and all that stuff. But that's who I am, putting it out there. I think that there's a group of elite people that really do run the world, and I don't think I'm that far off. So anyway, I'm thinking, how do I sidestep the system? I pass up this opportunity to do what my dad does. I give this, it's basically a golden ticket. Here's the golden ticket. You can be a general contractor or a project manager for this. Chalmette Construction is where my dad worked, and I thought, oh, okay, cool. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be my dad. I want to do something different. So I thought, okay, let's look up online what's out there, and that's when I found this company called UTC, and I love the vision of the future that they had of building sustainable homes that could transform shape, and they were producing their own energy. And that's what I went down that rabbit hole, Oh man, renewable energy, that sounds awesome, like let's nip this thing in the butt. Right now we're fighting wars for oil, and control over countries that have huge oil reserves, right? And we want to be able to control that in case we need to tap into it. And I thought, man, this is a way to give back, right? Let's put renewable energy on the grid and fight the system that way. And so I really did think of myself as like this renewable energy warrior, right? Like, or like, because I still had that military mindset of wanting to do that, but this allowed me to not kill anybody, and that sit well with me, just like, because I don't have that in me, sometimes I wish I did, so I could have served, but I just don't. So that's what I choose, man. I put it out there. But the last year of my school, I'm thinking that's what I want to do. I tell everybody that's what I'm trying to do. I graduate UC Riverside. I go to the commencement ceremony, or try to go to the commencement ceremony, and then there's like this disgruntled kid who can't graduate, that's pissed off. He has a bomb threat, threatens the whole school to bomb the whole school during the commencement ceremony for all those who did graduate, just so his parents don't come and see that he didn't graduate. So that's still to this day one of the craziest things that's happened at UC Riverside. And that was on my day. My dad can't even see me graduate. It gets rescheduled for like 2 days later. Man, craziness, right? That's a type of environment we were dealing with. Anyway, so I graduate, and then my grandpa gives me this like awesome trip to China. He's like, congratulations, Neal. You graduated. You're the first person in our family to graduate from college. And he gives me a funny little thing. He's like, but I'm the first one to make $1 million. I'm laughing at him. I'm like, dude, you got $1 million? Like, let me get $1 million, right? But he's like, I just went to China. I want to hook you up with this trip to China. And I was gone for like almost a month, man. And I traveled through China. And during that time, when I'm traveling around, going to Beijing, to Shanghai, go on the Great Wall of China, do all this cool stuff, I get the travel bug. And I thought, this is awesome. At that time, my parents are visiting my uncle in Texas, and my uncle in Texas lives near like New Brunswick. Okay. And at the time, he's working at a wind site in a place they called it Taconite Ridge, which is a clipper site almost in Canada, like far north. It's in this old like iron or steel mine or something like that. Big trucks rolling through and all this stuff. So anyway, he's working there. My parents are telling him the things that I want to do in renewable energy. And he's like, hey man, like that's cool. What kind of skills does he have? And sure enough, they tell him, like he studied business administration, supply chain, marketing, accounting, all of these things, just a well-rounded business guy. And he's like, man, I think I could use that. So he hits me up. I get back from China, and he says, and so shout out to, this is Stephen Parsons. So if you know Stephen Parsons, that's my uncle. He's about 6'7", looks nothing like me, married into my family. He's married to my aunt, who is the most caring and loving woman that I know. And shout out to Aunt Dawn. Aunt Dawn, I love you. So he says, I'm going to call this guy. He calls me up and he says, what kind of skills you got? What do you think? Are you interested in being what's called like a receiver And I'm like, what's that? He's like, well, you got to receive components, keep track of inventory. And I'm like, nah, I got that, dude. Like I could create an access program that'll, automate it. And he's like, what? And so anyway, I head out there to Taconite Ridge, dude. And that's where I got my start. And so I talked to him in 2007. At the very beginning of 2008, that's when I headed out to my first wind site. Now I'm in Taconite Ridge for, I think it's one night. I show up, I got to tell this story, and this is a funny one, man. So I show up and I'm looking like Justin Timberlake, dude. I have like this fedora hat on. I think it's like plaid or something. And like I'm looking like I'm from Hollywood or something. I'm a California kid coming to Minnesota where there's a bunch of like iron workers, lumberjacks, and just like rough looking dudes. And I meet him at this bar and I walk in and immediately like he looks like he wants to like crawl under the table because here comes his nephew and I'm just looking like a fool, right? I don't fit in at all. And he bellies up to the bar and we chat a little bit. He's like, I would ditch the hat, Neal. And I laugh my butt off. I'm like, oh crap, yeah, you're right, man. I really don't fit in here. So we chatted up. It's good to have a little reunion. We go get ourselves a nice, pair of boots. I got my first Rocky boots. I think is the first pair of boots I ever had. And we hit the site, and he shows me everything, and I hit the ground running, dude. I pick it up, and I pick it up quick. And he tells me, Neal, you're too smart for this place. I'm going to send you to go get trained by a good friend of mine and the head of this department, and his name is Terry Hamblin. So I go to Iowa. I go to a place they call Endeavor Forever, and it's in Harris, Iowa. And they call it Endeavor Forever because the project lasted forever. We built the Clipper turbines, and then we had to retrofit them once, and then retrofit them again, change the gearboxes, and then change the rotors, and then bring them down and do RCA 65, 68, all blah, blah, blah. It was there all the time, and there was this like constant revolving door of people, right? It was Clipper's first biggest project. I think there was like 40 turbines in the very beginning. And I go to shadow this guy. His name's Terry Hamblin. He's like an ex-Hell's Angel, dude. And he's a big dude, got a big beard, no nonsense kind of guy. Honestly, scares me. And not to mention, I hear these stories of him and my uncle like beating the crap out of people outside of the bar because they mess with them. And I'm thinking, oh man, like if I get out of line, he's gonna like break off a truck antenna and whip me with it, because that's one of the stories I had heard. So I'm like respecting this dude, and I'm like, okay, let's get started with this. And sure enough, man, that guy, rough on the outside from appearance, but that guy was one of the smartest dudes I'd met, and he allowed me to share my ideas that I had from school, but then told me how to practically apply the things that he knew would work. And I did simple things like checking inventory and watching offloads and keeping track of configuration data and inputting it into a database. I did muck jobs like cleaning up the connexes or whatever it was, and that's just how I started. And then he slowly started giving me more and more responsibility, and then it came to the time where he decided, I'm going to send you out to your own site. I don't remember what the first site was that I went out on my own. I think we had started up another one in Iowa, and then I know I went to New York, I went to Kansas, I went to Minnesota. So I'm not sure the timeline and all that. I kind of don't remember all that, but like I get responsibility and I become a configuration control lead. And so everything that comes in and out of the site, that's my responsibility. And I have to account for millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff, logistically bringing things in and out of the site and keeping track of it. There was a lot of improvements that I made. And by the time I hit Milford, Utah, which is just an hour north of me here in my office in Cedar City, just an hour north is Milford, Utah. So I go to Milford, Utah, and I think, man, there's something special here. I show up and there's a frozen tundra of just like white right? And it's just a flat valley, and there's maybe some GE components out there, and we're supposed to receive in all of these, clipper components. And we start the project. I started off with a guy by the name of Jamie Cleaver, who I've interviewed on this show. Great guy, good friend, and another guy named Tim Boyette. And they actually get there a little bit before me because I just got back from New Zealand, as I was out like taking a break because I had just spent like months and months and months in Flat Ridge, Kansas, and I was done, man. I needed to see some ocean. I needed to kite surf. I needed to hike. I needed to ride my dirt bike. I needed a break. And so that's one thing I was always good at, work really hard and then like play hard for like a month and then get back to it. So I come back from New Zealand. I go to the site and we start the project. And I ended up falling in love with this girl, man. I'm totally that guy. I know you've met them out there. Those guys who fall in love with girls at sites, and I totally did, man. I fall in love with this older woman and I decide I wanna stay here. But the funny thing is it really was a great opportunity because at the time I was getting a little bit tired of just being this configuration control lead. I wanted to know how these turbines worked. I'd probably climbed like a dozen times in the 2 years. You didn't really need to climb that much unless you needed to check serial numbers or you're just trying to get out for the day. But I really wanted to know how all these pieces come together to make this turbine work. And so I started shadowing some of the greatest people that I knew. And one of them was the commissioning lead of the project. Him and his guys would always come to me for parts. Something would fail, and I would have them fill out this form that said, like, what failed and why do you need the part? And then I would give them, a $20,000 board, electronic, board, and they would put it in. And I had no idea what it did or what. But Jim Holtman is his name, and Jim, I would ask him some of the most basic level electrical questions. I would get terminology down. I think at that time I'm kind of on autopilot running the site, but then I'm learning from Jim, and Jim he never closed the door. He never said, Neal, I can't do that right now. He just said, give me a couple minutes and we'll chat about it. Cause I always had questions. I had a little notebook. I'm kind of a note guy. Like I write in these little notebooks. I don't have one right here, but they were like these little notebooks. And I recommend all site techs or anybody just have a notebook and you're always writing down little tidbits of information. I did that over and over. I just asked him question after question after question, and he answered all of my questions. And that is honestly how I got my that's how I got my training, man. And I had enough so that I could actually apply for an O&M position. And I met with a guy named Brent, and he was over, hiring the guys at the site. And all of the guys I had traveled with, you kind of create a family. All the guys are like, Neal, you're nuts, dude. You got a good job. We're all envious because you get to stay in the office and we got to go out and bust our humps. You're making good money. You're traveling around. Our next projects are in Mexico and in Hawaii, and you're about to stay here for a girl and you're going to take a huge pay cut. And I say, yep, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so that's what I did. Brent hired me on as a base level technician at Clipper at the Milford Wind Farm. And man, I hit the ground running, dude. It was like a fire in me. I did not stop learning. I shared all the information I could get. There's a little bit of competition there. It makes like all the guys starting off, and I started off with some great people, man. And some of those people now hold very influential positions within wind power, the same people that we started off with. And that's such a cool thing to start off with guys, to learn from the bottom up and then work your way into the industry. And so that's exactly what I did, man. I hustled, I worked as a technician. I loved it, man. I was like a little bit concerned with the money factor, right? I was a little bit worried that I wasn't making enough money, but I was smart. I diversified and I saved my money. I saved my money from all of my travel. I think I had saved up at least $65,000. I bought the Tundra that I have right now. I bought it cash. I walked into the St. George Toyota dealership, and I remember I had $40,000 in cash in a backpack, and I dropped it on the table and I say, I want that truck right there. And the guy's like, are you a drug dealer? And I just tell him, no, not anymore, man. And he said, wait, not anymore. So I laugh and I'm like, I'm just kidding with you. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm a wind tech. And he's like, wind tech, huh? He's like, that sounds cool. And you make this kind of money? And I was like, well, I just save money, And he says, don't worry about it. Give me half down. I'll give you 0% on this truck and you'll be out the door. And I said, sweet, man. I get my pocket full of cash and I go and invest in homes. So I buy a couple of homes here in Cedar, one in Milford. Things are going well and I'm diversifying, right? And I'm making it happen. Sure enough, that works out for me. I'm getting paid some extra cash to supplement the income that I lost. I gave up $130 a day. I gave up, a good traveling wage. I even like my hourly went down quite a bit. So I needed to supplement that for sure, And so I did. I worked my butt off. Things are so good, dude. I have some pictures. I'll share them with you guys. My first day, I'm in my Clipper uniform. I got my new truck. That I end up actually crashing on the way to work one night because I took NyQuil to try to sleep and I run off the road. So that wasn't good, but I definitely recovered from that and I actually ended up getting like a cool little lift kit and sprucing it up a little bit because of that. So yeah, I ended up crashing on the way there. Things are going pretty well with Clipper, I guess, for a little while. And then we all know what happens. Clipper starts to, sell shares. They end up being bought by UTC, which, if you remember, that's a company that I wanted to work for in the past, which I thought was kind of cool because the thing that I put out there into the universe actually ended up happening. And I worked for them for a little while. I was actually at the plant when Clipper announced the sale to UTC, and so things I could tell were not going to be well with that. And so I had a friend of mine named John Wallstrom. He reached out to me. He was working for GE on the GE side of the Milford Wind project. At that time, we had 58 Clippers and 39 GEs, and they were just expanding. They were building another 68 GEs for Milford too. And they're like, well, they're just about done and we're going to need some techs. And my buddy John's like, if you guys know John Wallstrom, he's like, hey, Neal, I think you should come over here, man. It's got good. Sorry, John, I can't do your voice, but he's just got like kind of a little scratchy voice and great guy. And he says, dude, I think this is a good move for you. And I say, absolutely, dude. I think it's time to make the move. And so I move over and I go to work at GE and I test in at a level 2. Which was cool because kind of Clipper was kind of messing with me. Like they made me like interim site manager and gave me all these like crazy responsibilities. And yeah, I was still a tech 1. So I was like doing jobs that, I wasn't getting paid for. And so I was like, screw that, I'm out. And I went to GE and I loved it, man. I loved the GE experience coming in, going to Schenectady, learning it, not to dog out Clipper or anything, but like it was all kind of just like scatterbrained and they were just trying to figure everything out. It was like cowboy type stuff. And GE had it figured out. They had a good system and I love the training. I don't know if you guys can see it, but up here, I mean, I got my certs. I still like got all those up there. All of these certs, not only from a Clipper, but also from GE, going to Schenectady, the 1.5 trainings, all that stuff. And I think by this time it's like 2012. Things with the girl don't work out. End up finding this new girl who's like a lot younger and crazier, and having a great time with her. But like it's like detrimental to my life. Like trying to keep me out way too late. But I'm loving the experience, and that's when it comes down to this. Is all of that leads up to this point. All right, we have a crew of about 13 guys. And we're rocking, right? We're doing pretty good. You know, there's some internal strife here and there, back and forth about certain little things, like there is on all sites. But I'm working with a good group of people, okay? But we're having some serious issues. We're having some serious issues with some of the pitch system. We're having some serious issues with some of the converter system. And frankly, some of the answers were left unanswered. You know, we couldn't figure them out. We would create pack cases, things like that, and it just was not helpful, and it wasn't working out. So what I end up doing is sitting down tower after I have my shot at troubleshooting this hub, and we have this pitch thyristor, and these are 20 Newton meter pitch systems, and so they don't have any thyristors, right? So, but it's saying we have a pitch thyristors, we have some old software. You know, we're just chasing our tails on this thing, and we're not getting any help, and the pack case thing is not working. And so I decide, why don't I create a Facebook group, and we can talk about how to fix this stuff. And I'll invite all of my friends that I know from GE. I'll invite all my friends I know from Clipper. They can invite their friends, and then we can build a community to help us troubleshoot turbines, talk about whatever we want to talk about. You know, at the time, I didn't think we had anything. Like, I didn't even know what a WIA was. I didn't know what any of that stuff was. I didn't know that there was even a trade organization, honestly, at the time. So what I did was I created the Tower Climbing Grease Monkeys Facebook group. And you guys probably wondering, like, how did you come up with that name, dude? Like, what is it, right? And I can tell you this. When I was working at Clipper, I was working with a guy, and his name was Mike Sweet, okay? And really, I was like his tool bitch because he was really smart. He was a commissioner, and I was just starting off, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I would learn so much from him. Like, I would just watch him, and I'd watch what he would do. I would take notes. I would hand him tools when he asked for a tweaker. He was like fixing the MLS system or fixing, the converter or whatever it was. But we had like a really cool relationship, man. We'd ride in together. He was just like a good buddy. He played the guitar. I made up silly songs all the time. We enjoyed music together. And one of the things that we enjoyed to do was listen to this band called Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. And Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band is the most redneck type of thing you would ever hear. If you heard it, let me see if I can find it and play it for you. So, Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. Okay. And I remember there was a song called Left Hand George. Now, there's probably going to be some like YouTube. Something or other. So there's probably going to be like this little intro, and I'll probably get skipped out over this, and it'll probably ruin the whole podcast, but I'm going to try it. So. Okay, I can't play too much more, or Facebook will just like totally annihilate my audio, and it would suck. But that's the type of stuff we were looking at, and I call it boom shank, right? And I don't know why we like this stuff so much. I thought it was quite cool, and I decided, to like just like play around, and we like, flirted with the idea of starting this band and making music. And so that's what we did. And really, like, we just made the music inside of the wind turbine, and when we were waiting on parts or whatever. And I could sing this song really well. And because the guy doesn't really like pronunciate very well, he kind of just like, like, what did he just say? But you can figure it out. And so I would just make up songs about climbing wind turbines. I would like, climb up this wind turbine to fix the pitch, and then like silly stuff, dude. I just like would like write it down or think of it. It was funny, man. And then I'm telling Mike, I'm like, Mike, we need to create a name for the band. And he's like, Neal, like, we don't need a name for the band. And if you know Mike Sweet, it's just funny, man. Like, big tattoo dude. When he looks at you and he tells you no, he just like looks at you with disgust. He's like, no, we do not need to do that. If you know anything about me, I don't take no for an answer. If I really want to do something, I don't get discouraged very easily, and I don't really like care what people think. And I knew Mike, he didn't care, whatever. So like, I was like, we should name the band the Tower Climbing Grease Monkeys. He was like, he laughed and he said, you know what? That's actually sounds like a pretty cool band name. We didn't really get to record any music. We didn't get to make anything very well. Like, it was all just really an idea. The coolest thing that came out of it was the fact that we had come up with this name. And so that's how I came up with a name for the Facebook group. And then immediately I created branding to put on it. I found this monkey, help make this monkey into what it is, and then got some turbines and some wrenches, put it all together, and called it good. And I think I colored it a blue monkey because at the time I worked for GE and I thought blue and white were cool, and I would actually draw GE meatballs, blue and white meatballs, all over the turbines because I was proud of it. And that's ultimately what ended up getting me fired from General Electric. So do not draw turbine art. You can get fired. And that's actually what got me fired from GE. I never had any write-up or anything. And then they found some turbine art, and I think they were just looking for somebody to fire. And they ended up firing like 5 or 6 people like at one time, and not for that, but for other things. Anyway, a whole other story. But that's where the Tower Climbing Grease Monkey started. I remember getting pulled into the office, being kind of like interrogated about it. What is this thing, and why did you create it? And then getting restrictions. You cannot ask questions about wind turbines on this group. You cannot do that. They were like, you need to delete this. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't need to delete this thing. This is my personal space. I'm good. And so, sure enough, the group starts to grow in popularity. People start to like help out and do things. People start getting in trouble for what they're posting. Early on, man, people were posting crazy stuff. I remember one of the things, the images that are just burned into my mind, is somebody thought it was a good idea to post a picture of themselves butt-ass naked, but wearing a harness on top of the nacelle. Now, it was a back shot, so you see this dude's bare ass, and he's wearing this harness. And I don't know who the dude was that took the photo or who thought it was a good idea, but they must have been real close. And somebody shares that on the group, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I remember it was one of the first things I ever deleted, at least that I remember. I thought, oh my gosh. So honestly, man, like, I have pure intentions. I start this group. Things are going well with it. I'm thinking, oh man, we're going to cap out at like 1,000 people, man. This will be awesome. This thing grows, man, like fast and fast and fast. And by the time it hits 2014, I have a kid, and I'm telling my girlfriend that I have a kid with, I'm like, these guys are knocking down my door to like buy this gear that I put up. What should I do? It takes a decent investment. I think to start off, just to buy some shirts and to start up a business, I think it was like about $3,000 to get enough stuff in inventory. And she's like, don't do that. She's like, we need a new couch, and you got a new daughter, you got to like buy stuff for her. And I'm like, she's well taken care of. I got a job. It's cool. Like, so I ended up selling this trailer that I bought at a really low cost from RMT, who's the guys who built the site in Milford. I sell it. I get my $2,500. I had my own money, and then I'm off and running. I got this local print shop printing out Tower Climbing Grease Monkey shirts. I had one shirt. It was black. It had TCGM right in the center of the chest, and it had the Tower Climbing Grease Monkeys on the back. Right. Still have that shirt up today. Still probably the best selling shirt that I've ever made. And I was off and running. I got a taste of business in 2014. And I think it was 2013. I don't remember exact dates, but things were good, but they were tough, dude. I had at that time, I finally I ended up going to California for a little bit before that to work at the DAC, which is the Distributed Asset Control Center for First Wind. I'm doing that, and I hate it, dude. I can't stand it. I'm in this room for 12 hours, like looking at a screen. And the worst thing you can do to a technician who loves to be outside and to love to work on turbines is stick him in a room where he has to be there for 12 hours, taking calls from other techs and not being able to actually fix anything, but like having to shut things down and coordinate outages. And it was just not my thing. But shout out to Julie Bosha, who helped me walk through that, man. I was not happy in that time of my life, but she made it worth it for me, and she helped me through it. And to my manager, Matt Forrest, you guys believed in me, and eventually I found my path. And I think I helped them out quite a bit because I gave them a perspective of a guy in the field, and I brought to it. I worked there for 3 months, and then I came back to Milford, and I started working for First Wind, and I was a technician. So I'm out there doing my thing, and they approach me and they say, "Can you help us go self-operations?" Honestly, the site wasn't doing so well, and they needed to ditch the GE contract. Like, that was the only way that they could make some money. And I said, "Sure, man, I'll help you out." You know, and I did it. I became a lead technician for the General Electric turbines. I had 68 of them under my belt, and then we had this other little funky agreement for the other 39, and we taught technicians, or we taught guys who were like plumbers, farmers, guys who were working in the jails. We've taught guys who were tradesmen electricians that would install residential wiring. I taught a guy who used to fertilize fields for IFA. I taught all kinds of different people how to be technicians, and I loved it. And that's what I got. That's when I got the taste of what it was like to be a leader, what it was like to be an educator, to help others, and to see those light bulbs go off. And I loved it, man. It was like an addiction for me. And I thought, this is great. I want to be the leader that I've always wanted to be, lead by example, always be in the field, helping these guys learn, and telling them, if you get better than me at my job, you can have it, because that's where I want you to be, always training my replacement. So sure enough, that's exactly what I did. And all that time I'm like doing that job, right? Which is completely stressful to start a new site with new people, have them have no idea how to do it, but then they're calling you, radioing you, texting you, asking you in person, "How do I do this, Neal? How do I fix this thing?" And man, I did it. But all the time while I'm doing that, I'm running my business at home. So I come home and I literally have to package up orders and send them out. In those early days, man, like I was doing all of that. As a technician, I was doing all of that, and somehow I made it. And I was being a dad, and I have no idea how I managed all of that, but I did. It was just always something that I was so passionate about. Time goes on. My buddy Jamie, he leaves the site, and he. Oh man, maybe I should take this. Hello, this is Neal. Welcome to the TCGM show.
Hi, this is Michael from the travel department.
I totally got spammed. All right, so I thought that maybe be somebody that called in. By the way, there is callers if you want to ask questions, but I'll continue on with my story here. So I'm doing all this, and then I find my buddy, my buddy Jamie Orrock, who's my manager, who let me lead these guys how I needed to, and gave me so much encouragement and resources that he said, I'm leaving. I'm going to go to a site in like North Dakota. I want you to be the manager, man. You've done this from the beginning. And I said, absolutely, man. I'll take it on. And that was my ultimate goal, dude. I wanted to be like the site turbine manager, the ops manager or something, right? So I get that opportunity, and I take it serious, man. I try to be in the field as much as possible. I try to lead by example, still be like a lead tech type manager. I get bogged down with all this paperwork and all this stuff. Anyway, I learned a whole bunch about how to manage a wind farm, man. I work side by side with my friends. I work with Sean Rowley. I work with Bill Dent. I'm working with my whole crew, and things are going good. I'm loving it. But every time, dude, every time I start thinking about the future, TCGM pops up and just keeps itching at me. It keeps itching at me. And I thought, man, like, this is something. I got to do something about this. I would constantly back and forth. I drove an hour to and from work every day. And I had to brainstorm all the time. I just could not let it out. So all the guys in the car, bless their hearts, man, they listened to me and my crazy ideas. They would even put in their own ideas. I still have lists today of what are the problems that technicians need solved in the field, right? What is TCGM going to bring to the community? So eventually, man, I'm heading out to work, and I decide, after watching some like inspirational videos or something, I decide, you know what, dude, you should reach out to the American Wind Energy Association. And sure enough, I do. I reach out to this guy named Greg Alvarez, and I tell him, hey, look, I'm Neal from the Tower Climbing Grease Monkeys. And he's like, yeah, man, I know who you are. I tried contacting you not too long ago. And I was like, oh, cool, dude. I was like, well, what'd you want? He's like, I don't know. I just wanted to see what was up, see if we can collaborate on something. And I'm like, sweet, man. I was like, well, I'm kind of thinking about going to this O&M conference that you guys got going on in San Diego. And he's like, yeah, sure, dude. Come on out, man. I'll give you a press pass. No charge. Just get your way out here and come check out the event. It's on me. And I'm like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And so, I ask and I shall receive, right? And I thought, this is the coolest thing. And so I head out to San Diego. First AWIA event I've ever been to. Never been to a conference ever. Been in the game at this point for like almost 10 years. And I've never even been to a conference. I show up to this conference and I think, oh man, this is freaking awesome. And at this time, I hadn't even made that many videos. I think I made one video before this, and it was like right before I left. I made a video talking negatively about the new 3M LadSafe. Sure enough, man, that thing went crazy. Like, I think it got 8,000 views in the first day. It was nuts, man. Like, everybody was pissed off about that LadSafe, and I was the first one to record a video about it, and it just got shared around. It was awesome. But at the same time, I was like, oh crap, I just dogged out one of the biggest companies in the world. Let's see what happens, right? The conspiracy theorist and me thinking, oh man, I'm going to get a hit out on me. No, but anyway, I go to this trade show, right? And I start like going live. And I think one of the first things I went live on was like a Skylotech booth, like looking at a new harness. And then I went live on like a rad torque setup and a few other things. I think that day, I went live with Dustin Schneider from 3M. And he's like, hey, man, I saw your video. Come over here. I want to explain exactly what happened with the scenario. And let me like kind of debunk some of the myths and whatnot. And we had a great video. The next day I show up, and these guys that I shot the video for, they're like, Neal, I got sales from your video. I got a guy. I remember it. The guy at Rad Torque, he's like, Neal, I got guys like calling me about these guns. And he's like, what you did was awesome. He's like, thank you. And it was getting some good traction. I thought, heck yeah, this is awesome, dude. Sure enough, man, I do it again the next day. I'm on fire. I'm like, this is cool. And it was weird, dude, because I think at that time, the only videos I had ever really made was like giveaways. I was always giving stuff away because I knew that was what I wanted to do. I just wanted to give back to this community, in any way I could. I was always doing giveaways for shirts. I was doing giveaways for little things that I could buy myself, right? Never sponsored, nothing like that, just all my own giveaways. But up until that point, I hadn't made any videos about anything else other than, TCGM. And it was a hit, dude. It was a thing. People started like, I was walking around the conference and people were like, you're that Tower Climbing Grease Monkey guy. I remember hearing that a bunch. And I was like, oh crap, this is weird. Like, I don't know if I like this, but at least it's working out. And I think I could use this, right? So I come back to Milford. And I think I come back one day and then I come back another day. I don't know exactly the timing of it, but I'm driving into work. I'm on an hour commute heading to Milford. And there's this point in the road where you go through this windy valley, or you go through this windy little corridor, and you peek out and you could see the FAA lights in the distance. And you got another, like, I don't know, 25 minutes to go to get to the site. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, man. It's like something actually hit me in my chest. My chest got tight. My throat got tight. I kind of choked up as if I was like gonna start crying. And I had that, but I had this like overwhelmingly like feeling of like positive energy and love like surrounding my body. And that sounds weird, dude. Trust me, I know it sounds weird. And I just talking about it just kind of gives me chills already, because I remember that feeling like it was no other. And I got a simple voice in my head, man. It was my voice, and it said, "You're not supposed to be here anymore." And I remember that, and I acted upon it. We got to the site, and I knew the whole time I was praying. I was thinking to myself, okay, how am I going to do this? What are you going to do? And I didn't know. I had an idea. Maybe I could be a recruiter, or I could do something like that, right? But I followed it, dude. I followed the feeling. I went in. I talked to Bill Dent. I said, Bill, it's time. I'm gonna be putting in my 30 days notice. I'll give you 30 days. We'll help groom one of these guys here to take my place, and I'll be gone. And Bill just gave me the biggest smile, and he said, Neal, I knew this day would come. He said, I'm so proud of you. As a guy I worked with for over 8 years at that point, and he was supporting me the whole way. First Wind supported me my whole way. They were loving, they were supporting. I remember them even making an article about what I was doing and sharing it internally. And I told him, and I walked out of his office, and I got into my office. I closed the door, and I had this feeling like I had done something wrong, like I wanted to run in there and tell him, wait, no, but no, I felt it. And I just trusted that feeling, and I went for it. And so we trained my replacement. Steve Martis took my spot out there. I gave up the thing that I thought I had wanted the most in pursuit of something that I knew I wanted in my heart. I didn't really know what it was going to be, right? And I've shared those videos with you guys. I remember going live on my first days on my own, and sharing that with you. This has been an experience. It's almost like the Truman Show, but like I'm completely upfront and honest and open about everything that I do. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be a recruiter, and I'm going to like get companies jobs, because I was going to get companies technicians, because I'd been doing that for years for free. And I never charged anybody. And I found out what crazy things you could charge companies. And I thought, yeah, that's a good way to make a living. But dude, it didn't feel right. Didn't feel right one bit. And so I actually was pretty successful at it for a little bit. And then I just ditched it. And I thought, this isn't me. And I remember watching this YouTube video about, it was of Jim Carrey, and he was making a speech at this like Maharandi school of management or something, right? And he's wearing this funky little hat, but the things that were coming out of that dude's mouth were like gold to my ears. And one of the things that stuck with me was, dream up a good dream for yourself. So I had made this leap. I literally made this leap, not knowing exactly how I was going to do it. Trust me, I safeguarded myself. I ended up, taking a loan out on a rental property that I had. I had some money in the bank. I was good, but I needed to make a good dream for myself, to dream up a good dream for myself. And man, I struggled with that. I tried to just dream it up. I tried to live in a space where I would feel the good feelings and see what I was doing. And I couldn't do it until one morning at 3:00 in the morning. I wake up out of a dead sleep. I go downstairs. I open up the wood burning stove in my basement. I start poking the fire, add another log on. I remember keeping the door open and just like wanting to watch the flames in the box. And I sit down in this little recliner, and that's when I had this vision. I had this vision that I was inside of this office that was on it was like really high up, like it was higher than a two-story building. I was inside. In front of me, outside of the office, was a glass window. I had a really nice desk, and I had um, a mezzanine in front of me. And in that mezzanine, it was like this balcony with these rails, and I could see over the rails, and there were wind turbines inside of this big this big shop. Nacelles. There were power converters. There were guys training on these things, and off in the distance, there were guys training at heights. Um, this is a really big, spacious building, and at that point, my daughter walks up, and she has this backpack on, and she's a little bit older, and she comes in, and she's like, "Hi, Dad," and puts her backpack down. She pets my dog. I can tell you exactly like the things that were on my desk. I can tell you the things that I saw. And I took that little snippet and I thought, that's what I need to do. And I put that in my memory. I put that in my heart, and I went for it. And that shortly after that, I got the idea that I was going to go on a tour, because really, out of all of this, all I wanted to do was like connect people. I wanted to meet the people that were a part of the group. I wanted to create a community for wind turbine techs. We had linemen that have cool community. We have firefighters that have a cool community. We've got, all of these people that have these great communities, and wind techs are like, we're just over here doing this job, no one cares. And I wanted to create something for that. So I thought, I'm going to tour the West Coast. And I said that on a live video, and I had no idea how I was going to do that. No idea at all. Turned off the live feed, pushed the button, and thought, whoa, how are you going to do that? But it was like, it just started clicking, man. I called up WD-40, who had reached out to me earlier. We worked out a deal. I said, look, I want to go on this tour. Maybe I can bring some of your stuff, share it with the guys. What do you think? I'll put your logo on my truck. I'll wrap my truck up. They're like, yeah, that sounds good. So I knocked them out. Got a few other sponsors, Winergy, Rad Torque, Altura, 3M, Awea, who else? I'm probably forgetting some. Amsoil, those are all my first sponsors, man. I thought, oh, this is cool, right? And I thought I can pay some bills like this and help build my community and put out some cool content. Well, I didn't know how hard it was, man. I really underestimated how much I should charge these guys to do this and how much the trip was. And I was really quite living on my savings. But yet I had made a little bit of cash to help, pay back myself and whatnot, and pay for my expenses. But I was putting out content that I didn't know how to be I didn't know how to be a videographer. I didn't know how to make videos. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff, right? And so there was a point in time where I thought, man, all I'm doing is selling out. This sucks. I'm just talking about other people's stuff. But that's because I lost vision. I lost vision of what it was that I was trying to do. I was promoting for these companies so that I could save money to help bring you cool stuff. Stuff like a technical forum off of Facebook, a cool podcast, a spot where I could review, everything that comes into the industry, from torque wrenches to harnesses to anything, to be a no nonsense third party that just gives it to you straight. It talks to you about, news that are happening in the industry, whatever it may be, right? Whatever I could do to add value, but I felt like I wasn't adding enough value. And I couldn't produce the content that I had recorded that wasn't branded or that wasn't sponsored, right? I had great stuff. So I decided I'll do it differently in Texas. I created a tour for Texas just this year, right, in March. And I go out to Texas and I do some great things. I meet some great people. I got 2 terabytes worth of video, but I still struggle to pay the bills and make sponsored content and still make content that's not sponsored and the stuff that I think adds so much value. So many of you guys got interviewed by me and I couldn't put it out because I haven't perfected the system yet. And so now here I am. I'm about to go to Colorado. I'm going to do the same thing. But things are starting to change. I'm starting to figure out how to do this and have a balance. In my opinion, I feel like I need to put out 80% of stuff that's not sponsored at all and then 20% of stuff that is sponsored, right? That way I'm adding value to you guys. I started this podcast. I said I was going to do it, and here I am doing it. You know, I have this vision for this research and training facility, the thing in my dream. I want to build it here in southern Utah. We have a great wind resource right here along the 15 freeway, right in Canaryville. And I'm speaking it into existence. I've got a business plan put together and I'm sharing it. That's what I'm doing. You know, I have other things like the technical forum. There's some that are trying to do that on their own. I'm doing it. I spoke it into existence 3 years ago. I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow my efforts. I'm going to create and add value to you guys. And I don't have it all figured out. But, you know, a couple days ago, I had a moment where I felt like, man, you're just a big ass sellout, Neal. And I shook it off and I realized, Neal, you got to do certain things to grow. And these guys know who you are. They know why you started this. So if you got to make trade-offs in the beginning, I'm okay with that. And in all honesty, I'm okay with always partnering up with cool companies, man. I love all of my sponsors to death, man. They've helped me create this thing. And they know my struggle. They know that the tours aren't about them. They're about meeting the people, giving back, giving out cool stuff so that they feel like they're appreciated, highlighting the technicians. The mission statement for my company is to add value to technicians' lives any way possible. That's my mission statement. This is about you. My company is built to add value to your life. Now, that might sound crazy. It might sound like, why would you do that? Well, because I believe in it, man. I believe that technicians get overlooked. I believe that they're the most valuable asset in the wind industry. And nobody knows, unless you've done it, what the job's like. So I thought it was cool to share the story with you guys. We've hit a little bit over an hour. I didn't know that I could even talk that long. My throat's getting crazy dry. But I want to leave you guys with this. I've got a dream for this. I've mentioned to you many times different things that I want to do to help. I mentioned opening this up so that technicians can invest in it. This will always be a technician-owned company, whether it's owned by me, who's been a technician for years, or by you guys as well. And I don't know quite how to do that yet, but I want to do that. I want to open that up for you. But let me just tell you, I'm working towards it. I'm doing the best I can. There's only me. A year ago, I shared a fun video of me walking around my house showing you exactly how humble the beginnings this is. I run TCGM out of my house in Cedar City, Utah. I don't have some big facility. The orders that come in from online and you guys buy orders, that stuff's all drop shipped. I can't do all that on my own. So I work with some great partners. They make this stuff. They get a cut of it and they send it to you. That's how it works. Until I can bring that in-house, that's how it works. Complete transparency here, guys. I'm telling you how this works. I love this. I do this because I know it's the right thing to do. And I'm going to leave this with you guys. I hope you have a great day. I hope this story has shed some light on how this all got started, what it is that TCGM is. I'm sure I missed out on a lot of this stuff, but, you know, I'm going to do my best. Keep trying. So until next time, guys, we'll see you later.